what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Auto Transport Intel. It is Wednesday. It is noon. That means it is time for DOT Compliance, where your DOT guy, Brian Riker, wants you to put your questions right there in the live chat. Go ahead and do that. He is here to help answer questions, whether you've got CDL questions, ELD, IRP, IFTA. Pick your anagram, pick your way station, and talk to Brian. And so here's what we want you to do. Do me a favor. This is a short 30-minute show. Mic check 1, 2, 3. After you leave a like, thank you so very much for doing that. Click the share button, then copy, grab the YouTube link. You can text it, email it, share it on social media. Send it to a friend that is approaching a way station, has a question. Am I overweight? I checked my weight. I should be good. What about my steers? What about my trailer rating? Do I have a problem? You know somebody. Or maybe you just got a citation and you know it doesn't make sense. You want to know more about it. So find out. And listen, if you are one of the many getting into auto transport, click on, well, go to autotransportintel.com, click on sign up. Become an ATI insider. Find out more about the auto transport business. You know, I saw a video. I was going to make a bunch of money right after the video ended. Is that happening? Is that real? Find out more about it. So please do join us. It is now time. And look at that live chat going crazy. Right? Because people can't believe we're back. Brian, we're back.
I know. It's been, 3 or 4 weeks now since we've done this show. I think you and I forgot how to be on the air.
Well, as I mentioned before the show, I can't tell if I'm live or on demand or, well, that's probably pushing it. But,
yeah. No, I'm on demand. I had a guy call me the other night at 10:30 at night to ask a compliance question. Please, audience, please. I love you all, but no, unless it's an emergency.
Right. Okay. In fact, let's do that. I'm going to share that right now. And I see Carlos is in the live chat. What's going on, Carlos? The best way to contact Brian, rather than calling him at 10:30 at night, send him an email on air at YourDOTGuy.com. And that's right, Brian. That's the fastest way to get hold of you.
That is the best way to get a hold of me, yes. I promise I will get back to you.
And the reason we had that, we'll just briefly cover it. We had a, Ty went live from California a few weeks ago. Then we were live in Vegas, I think that was 2 weeks ago. Then last week was Thanksgiving. I was traveling for that, but we are now back. So we haven't done a show, it could be a month.
Yeah, we tried to do a live hit from Baltimore 2 weeks ago, and the tech just didn't work well. But
we saw you at the tow show. That was
yes,
cool.
You did.
Yeah, that was really cool. So, all right, so here we are, and Carlos is here. In fact, had somebody came over from Trucking Answers is a show in freight. That's my friend Mark. And I think somebody came over, but we'll see if they ask a question. But we're prepared even if nobody says anything. So let's do this, Brian. Let's go ahead and throw up. This is our favorite graphic. This is David bets that you can't stump Brian. Ask your tough questions, and we'll see if Brian's ready. We know he is. Brian, you're an expert. Tell us a little bit more. If let's say someone is here for the first time, tell us about you, your company, and your podcast, please.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jay. Well, I'm Brian Riker. I am your DOT guy. I'm not just someone that went to school to learn about DOT compliance or a former motor carrier enforcement officer. Rather, I am an active CDL holder. You can tell from the background. I'm sitting in the cab of a truck today. I support the towing and auto transport market by working with one of the largest dealerships in that market. I'm delivering someone a brand new truck. They're going to be happy to see this afternoon. But I've owned towing and auto transport companies. I learned all this the hard way. And like I like to say, I am a practitioner, which means I'm out here on the side of the road just like the rest of you guys are. In fact, I had a DOT inspection about 2 weeks ago, passed it with flying colors. I stay current with what's going on. I'm not just sitting in my ivory tower somewhere reading the book and telling you do this. I have practical solutions for the everyday problems that we face in the trucking world. So I specialize in DOT, interstate DOT regulations. So US DOT, getting you operating authority, what happens if your authority gets suspended or revoked, helping you do data queue challenges, answering questions. Was that inspection legitimate, or did they write me up for something they shouldn't have? What do I need to know to avoid having trouble with DOT? That's what I do. Think of me as your company safety officer or your compliance officer, the guy that we all hate when we work for somebody, but we have to have this if we want to keep our authority active.
Perfect. And you also have, so you're launching a podcast, right?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. It's supposed to drop either this Saturday or next Saturday. It's going to be short form like this, 30 minutes for now. It is On the Road with your DOT guy, Brian Riker, and it's going to be available anywhere podcasts are available, iTunes, Google, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, all of that. It'll be available anywhere podcasts are available. And I take a deeper dive than we can do here with the live chat. I take a deeper dive into individual issues. Some of the issues that we already have in the can for this podcast are dealing with brokers, why they may be necessary. I have how to manage a breakdown and or a non-consensual tow invoice when you're out on the road, because we don't want to get taken advantage of when we have an equipment failure. We touch on insurance, building a brand for your company, and just general DOT compliance. And that it's going to be a mix of me and special guests, other industry experts. And that is where we want to take it. Eventually, we'll probably do some questions and answers from the audience and live call-ins over there as well. And the same email address reaches me for both of these shows, on air. That's all one word, on air, ONAIR, at YourDOTGuy.com.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to then, so we'll be sharing future links, and that'll be really cool. And in fact, you can use this show as I'm going to take a deeper dive into that. Let's do that. So that'd be
absolutely
cool. It's a nice.
This show gives me a lot of ideas, because I can't see everything that's going on all across the country. I do travel coast to coast, but I still don't see it. You guys, please drop it in the comments. Send us an email. Let us know what you're seeing out there, what you have questions for. We can't make this show any better if we don't know what you need to know.
That's awesome. All right, so just put tell Brian what you want to discuss on air at YourDOTGuy.com. And by the way, you were mentioning, so what is happening with new entrants into trucking right now?
This is blowing my mind. I don't know if it's a result of abnormally high per mile rates in the freight or refrigerated markets. I don't understand. Maybe it's just people are fed up working for people. But new applicants, new entrants obtaining US DOT numbers and motor carrier authority for the first time have skyrocketed to between 5,000 to 6,000 a month on average. Just think about that. We're adding 5,000 to 6,000 new trucking companies to the market every month, and we have been consistently for the last year. So that means we've added 50,000 new motor carriers to the market. My word of caution is the bubble is going to burst, folks. So make sure you have some good direct relationships and that you understand your industry, which is why places like the Auto Transport Intel channel are critical, so that you can learn more of what is going on, so that you're prepared to survive when this does crash. And I don't want to be doom and gloom, but 5,000 to 6,000 new competitors every month. Now, a lot of them fail out in the first 3 to 6 months, but still, that is a lot of new trucking companies on the road.
That's pretty intense, especially when, I mean, when you're in any industry long enough, and you start to see the larger companies acquiring, merging, then you have all these new entrants. So there'll be many that fail, some that get acquired, some that become some sub haulers.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
We're seeing that there's been a lot of mergers and acquisitions in the general trucking space this year as well. A large Canadian company, TFI, Transforce International, they're rebranding all of their truckload operations under the CFI name, which is an old American trucking company that they bought when Conway UPS Freight, Conway Truckload, they all got out of that business. Long story short, we're starting to see consolidations. They just gobbled up another 200 or 300 truck fleet just this week. I'm forgetting the name of the company right now. It's irrelevant, but we are seeing consolidation. Even among the auto transport world, we're seeing little companies start working together and becoming bigger or mid-sized companies. So the world is changing, folks.
Silverman says freight rates are up, but on the decline.
Yes, they are. And that's to be expected because this week around Thanksgiving is a little screwy. Between now and New Year, there is a big disruption. Warehouses close. They do inventory. They get the big push to get their retail freight into the retail markets, into the Walmarts and the Kmarts, if they're even still in business, into the stores. And then they take a little break, do their inventory, and get ready for the rush of returns that come right after New Year's. So that's disrupted, though, because of the backlog at the ports. So nothing is typical in our freight cycle this year. It's been that way for the last 2 years. Nothing's been typical anymore.
Well, it'll be interesting once then that holidays clear out, and I don't know what the prediction is for shipping container Geddon when that gets cleared out. Do you have any insight into what's going on with?
I know that the state of California raised the weight limit on shipping containers to, I think, 88 or 90,000 pounds. Don't quote me on the exact weight. How that's going to help, I don't know, because the containers were loaded months ago and loaded to comply with the current 80,000 pound on 5-axle rule. It's not like they can just open the back doors and jam 10,000 pounds worth of crap in the back of the container.
Totally.
So I think that's just a feel-good gesture. But I think we're going to see an increase in accidents and an increase in motor carrier enforcement when the containers hit the road with new companies that have never hauled containers before.
Well, and on that, I always laugh when, like somebody's like, well, Biden or Buttigieg should go get a forklift and go down there and help out. I mean, some things, right? Whatever, I don't know. But I'm going to move on since I just dropped a Molotov cocktail in the discussion. Let's see here. Let's go to. We know we've got How We Doing, and in fact, let me get the. Let's cue up the music there of How We Doing. No, not that. All right, cool. I picked ridiculous music because sometimes people load ridiculously. In fact, we've got this video. This is Classic Newark, New Jersey, sent in by Fritz. So here we go.
Yep.
Oh, but wait. Here comes the car hauler. Our flatbedder.
We'll call him a hot shotter.
Yeah, let's call him Hot Shot. There you go.
That is very typical. I want to know where they're going with that load because I need that Ford Ranger that was on the top of the yellow flatbed that went through. I need some parts off of that. But no, seriously, I started hauling in the Newark, New Jersey area. This is nothing new. They've been doing this for 30, 40 years or more. Is it safe? Not necessarily. Is it legal? Not necessarily. At least these guys had chains and not straps. I've seen some people throw straps over loads like this, and then they get cut on sharp edges. So to pick this apart a little bit without picking on them, but to pick this apart a little bit, when you're hauling hulks of cars, which is what these are because they're going to the crusher, once you've stacked them on top of each other with a forklift, FMCSA looks at them as a car hulk. That's HULK. They have specific rules for them being secured with chains or cables, so they got an A+ for that. But they have a containment net requirement to catch all the loose debris, because as they go down the road and they crush, A, they come loose, B, little pieces of glass and plastic come loose from them. So they get an F for not having the containment nets on here. And stacking them like that without crushing them first, and I realize these cars are probably going to the crusher, but stacking them like that without crushing them first allows the roof to start to cave in, and then your straps come loose, and you risk getting an unsecure load, or worse, you risk the load shifting and falling off your truck or trailer because you didn't notice that the chain came loose in time to get out and tighten it up. So really, no. And then we'll get into weight. I don't even want to guess at the weight on the trucks. That 2-car rollback that went through, he probably was overloaded on his rear axle. I'm going to guarantee you that is a non-CDL. In fact, we used to own a GMC just like that, and I know how heavy that truck is. That's a heavy 16, 17,000 pound truck before you put the cars on it. 25.5 GVW, so we have about 6,000 to 7,000 pounds. That Ford Ranger weighs 4,000 at least. The car that's sitting on probably weighs 3,500. So the two right there take up all his rear axle capacity. Then you're towing another one with the wheel lift extended, which transfers weight off the steer axle back to the rear axle. I guarantee you that truck is overloaded on the rear axle. And I love the winch line thrown up over the roof and pulled down with the bridle to secure that car up top. There's nothing professional about that load. I'm sorry if it is your load, guys, but there is nothing professional about that load. Get the right equipment to haul 3 vehicles at a time. You could have had an over cab rack and transferred the weight far enough forward that you probably didn't overload your rear axle on that truck. You could have put that car up over the cab. Now, the hotshot guy with the gooseneck trailer, he's probably not overweight, but again, we have vehicles that they're going to crush down in transit and a chance to come loose or have debris come loose. So this is not how you do how we doing, unless you want to be featured on this segment again.
All right, excellent analysis. Mic check 1 2 3. All right, good. So that was great. Great segment. Once again, love how we doing. In fact, let's see here. Let's close that video. I think I've got some. Oh, this is interesting. We were talking about wedgies because, man, do people love wedgies. And they love talking about it. This was sent in. Fast Steady Transport. OEM new vehicles on the wedgies. Here, it's two, I guess there's 2 of them right here. Yeah. And he said,
not unusual.
He said, I'm just seeing it 24/7.
Yep.
Which the OEMs are talking about. There's an article now. Yeah. There's but not so much on Facebook.
Well, this is a delicate situation because they don't want to upset their legacy carriers that have been doing their freight forever. But they need to move the freight, and when we, especially right now, this is why I say you have to pay attention to a ever dynamic market. Dynamic means it's changing, it's fluid, it is different every day. Well, look at the dealership lots. They just are empty. They don't have a whole truckload, a traditional truckload of 7 to 9 vehicles going to one dealership anymore. And so it makes perfect sense to put 3 of them on a 3-car wedge and ship them out there. And that truck is probably getting a priority rate just like a hotshot truck should. So that 3-car truck may be making more than the guy doing the milk run with his 9-car just to keep it loaded. And I'm going to get hate mail for that one. But the logistics world has changed. Just look at the impact Amazon has had on package delivery, where you can get something you order online in some cities as quick as 2 hours from when you order it. That's forced UPS and FedEx, who had defined the small package shipping industry for decades, to change how they do business even. It's forced the U.S. Postal Service. Well, auto transport's no different. Like it or not, easier to load equipment is here, which lowers the barrier to entry, so you don't have to have the same skill set to do this job. Freight rates are changing. Freight lanes are changing. Where the vehicles come from are changing. Our normal break bulk areas have moved around the country. Truck drivers don't want to drive 1,000, 1,200 miles on a trip. A lot of them don't anymore. Diehard enthusiasts, we do, but your next generation of truck driver wants to be home every night. So we're changing how we do things. Things are being shipped in different manners, and the OEMs have caught on to that. They're using wedges. And you can't blame it on the independent either, because some of your largest auto transport fleets out there have wedge divisions, and you may not even realize that it's part of a large fleet. Look at the silver GMC 6500 Silverados pulling the 3-car wedges to say Roush or Pro Fleet on the side of them. Well, Pro Fleet is Proficient Auto Transport out of Florida. They're a several hundred truck fleet, predominantly Stingers, but they have a contract to use those trucks on certain OEMs. Other OEMs are following suit as well. Some are using independents. Some are using their existing legacy carriers and just asking them to put different equipment on the road.
I did not know that about ProFleet. That's really interesting. Proficient was just at Used Car Week and Finished Vehicle Logistics in California, so that's really interesting. I was going to say, over the holiday, I had a cousin talking about when he was doing a paper route as a kid. And, boy, you don't realize sometimes how much things have changed. A paper route.
Yeah, that doesn't exist anymore.
No.
At least not for a kid on a bicycle.
Nobody today would know what you're talking about.
I used the term a few minutes ago, milk run. And I bet you a lot of people in the trucking industry don't understand what that is either.
Milk run, right?
Milk run, for those of you in the audience that don't understand, that's a throwback to the days when the milkman would come to your house and drop a few bottles off. And he did the same route every day, every other day, whatever. Well, that's a milk run in trucking. You are making multiple stops to pick up and drop off, generally at the same dealerships, auctions, railheads, whatever. And that's what we did for years when I was hauling cars. We ran the same route, whether we had a full load of cars or not. And that's what we were paid for. So it didn't matter to me if I didn't have a full truckload. Our rates weren't necessarily based on that.
Oh, and Silvermint, interesting point. Those loads were most likely going to a staging lot for then over the road, or maybe rail, or
that makes perfect sense, because they can shuttle them a lot quicker on a simple truck like that, and then loading 2 levels on a Stinger. So that does make perfect sense.
And I saw, so for the holiday, I'm in Kansas City. I traveled north up towards Iowa, over there by the Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois area. And on the way saw full Jack Cooper trucks, Stingers, headed north, empty, headed south. Over and over and over, kept seeing that. And I'm thinking, what, from a rail, from or from the Kansas City plant?
Probably Kansas City plant going up somewhere with trucks, yes.
And so, Camera One, if you're just joining us, well, the show's almost over. We're catching up again from several weeks off. But, yes, we haven't answered any questions. We haven't had any questions. But that's okay. There's still plenty to talk about in the realm of trucking. But I will say this. Let's do this. We got about 5 minutes left. I think I've got a couple things here. What is Whoops. Let's do... Oh, here we go. OOIDA asks Buttigieg to dedicate $1 billion for truck parking. Brian.
Interesting ask, because we did not get a call out in this infrastructure package to give us dedicated funding for truck parking. And anyone that spends any time on the road knows that truck parking is an issue. Just look at how many trucks pile up on entrance ramps, exit ramps, and spill out onto the highway from rest areas. If you're an over-the-road guy sleeping in your truck, it's almost impossible to find a parking spot in some parts of this country after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's a very interesting ask here, because in a separate bill that didn't go anywhere, the Congress had already approved $980 million, so basically $1 billion for truck parking. So OOIDA made a request of the Secretary of Transportation to use their discretion that they have on some of this discretionary funding that was given to them in the infrastructure bill to fulfill Congress's wishes and give us $1 billion dedicated just to truck parking improvements. And I think that'll help. That's really a safety issue. I like the concept. The money is going to be spent on something. I'd rather it go to truck parking than another rail trail or highway beautification project.
So and it absolutely is a safety issue, but the pessimist in me would say if you don't mention children, you don't get the money. So what if children asked for $1 billion for truck parking? Would that work?
Well, speaking of children, we have the Santa 18 Act that was proposed by about a dozen Republican representatives that wants to temporarily change the definition of interstate commerce to allow under 21-year-old truck drivers to move loads out of the port, provided they don't leave their state with them. So I guess if we have the 18 to 21-year-old truck drivers that DOT are excited about ask for parking so that they can take their nap and put their binkies in their mouth, well, that's bad, because I support.
So good,
I support that's bad though, because I support under 21 truck drivers in interstate commerce in some circumstances. But being funny and tongue in cheek, maybe that's what we need.
Oh, I love it. Speaking of binkies and whatnot, will you start a trucking company with me? Now, this is my comedic jab at... Listen, I understand wanting to be an entrepreneur, etc. It's an American right to start a business. But it's more than just a couple videos that tell you you're going to make a bunch of money. And by the way, I'm gonna take a real swipe at this one. I continue, and I can't believe it, but I just have to strap myself in and get used to it. I continue to see videos made by folks that are talking about all this money out there, and they haven't made that money.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's incredible.
That is the American entrepreneurial spirit right there. They're getting rich in trucking. It's like, how do you make $1 million? Well, put $1 in an envelope and mail it to me, and I'll give you the secret. Well, put an ad in the newspaper and ask 1 million people to mail you $1. I mean, it really is.
And I'm watching Deadwood. Somebody, again, over the holidays, somebody said you got to watch Deadwood. So I'm watching Deadwood. Snake Oil Salesman City.
You know, I have not watched that series in forever, and I loved that series.
Snake Oil Salesman, but you know, got to make a living.
So seriously, folks out here that are interested in starting a trucking company, Jay and I are not here to discourage you. We're here to help you. But if you have to ask your girlfriend to fund the truck for you, or you have to ask your best friend to give you $10,000, or you want to own the company, but you got to put it in your third cousin twice removed's name, maybe you're not ready to start a trucking company yet. Unless you're married, don't get involved in the boyfriend, girlfriend, running a business together stuff. I don't care how much you love him, how much you love her. That's a great way to destroy a relationship. It's hard enough when you're married. Partnerships are the only ship that don't sail. So please think closely about who you're asking for help and what it's going to do to a relationship when it goes wrong. So I'm starting to sound old and jaded here, but I've seen this. I have hundreds of customers that have started up their business. 6 months to a year later, when they break up with the girlfriend or the boyfriend or whatever, they're closing the business, asking me, how do I get this out of my name? How do I not be responsible for it? Well, the short answer is you don't until they decide to release it. So this picture is humorous and it's in jest, but it is true. So just be very selective in who and how you start your company.
And I think I got one more thing here. Yes, it's time to treat the root cause of driver retention problem, which is interesting. Talking about so many companies starting, we still talk about driver retention, driver shortage. Brian, what's going to happen Q1, Q2, 22? What do you see?
Well, considering that the entry-level driver training regulations go into effect February 7th, 2022, it'll be a little more difficult to get a CDL because you will have to have completed classroom on the range, so in the yard and on the road training by a registered training provider. And not everybody's going to qualify to be a registered training provider. So there's no more, hey, I got my truck, I'm going to get my permit and have my buddy drive me to DMV and take the test. It just won't happen that way anymore. So I think we're going to have a crisis on creating new CDL holders that might finally force these companies to address the retention and turnover or churn problem we have. We don't have a shortage of truck drivers. We have a surplus of more than 1 million active Class A CDL licenses in the United States than we have available jobs or total jobs driving truck. And so it's not a shortage. It's people come in, they get lied to, they get disheartened by the industry when they see what the reality of it is, and they leave. So if you're an employer, think about what you're doing or asking your drivers to do and the quality of life that they want to have. This isn't the era anymore where people are married to the truck and living on the road. It's not a lifestyle anymore. To a lot of people, this is just a job. They do a very good professional job at it, but it is just a job. So we have to change the way we manage our companies, dispatch our drivers, what we expect out of them, which is why we're seeing changes such as the explosion of wedge trucks and whole different concepts. Not everybody wants to spend 2 hours to load a high rail anymore when they can spend 35 minutes and put 9 cars on a quick loader, or spend 2 hours and get 10 or 11 on a high rail. It's really, the world's changing. I'm a dinosaur. There aren't that many people that want to work like I do anymore. So we have to adapt our businesses to this. So yes, it's time to treat the root causes of driver retention, which is everybody's different. So no one job fits everybody. You have to offer different shifts, different types of equipment, different ways of running. Some people want to be out 3-4 weeks at a time. Some people want to be home every night. That will go a long way to fixing this driver shortage, retention, churn problem we have. Is just changing how we treat our drivers and how they're compensated for what they do. Why do you think the big less than truckload companies have an 8 to 10% turnover when the full truckload companies, your regular over the road guys, have a 90 or 100% turnover in a year? It's because the job has clear-cut expectations when you're in the package world compared to the truckload world. Well, we can do that in car hauling too.
Well, and all those new entrants, I mean, shouldn't that be a strong signal to driver retention problem?
Oh, yes, because these are guys that don't want to work for somebody. They want to do it their own way. So they're willing to put their money where their mouth is and start, and it's a big investment, and start a trucking company just so they can do it their own way. So that tells you that, contrary to where some of the political energy goes in this country trying to destroy the gig worker or the independent contractor, the gig worker and the independent contractor is still strong in America. We don't all want to work for Mom Corp. We want to be independent.
And B Logistics, also there needs to be better truck stops. So I just came up with another ad campaign for Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg. Children demand better truck stops. I think I'm really onto something here.
Sure.
Yeah. There we go. Binkies and whatnot. That is awesome, dude. It's great to be back. We do have another holiday break coming up. I mean, maybe. Because, okay, so we're good. So here's the 1st. We're good on the 8th. We're good on the 15th. I'm good on the 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
The 29th, probably I can do that too.
Yeah,
So
we should be good for the whole month of December.
Yeah, we should be good, and then we're cooking into January. I don't have another trade show till I think March.
Same here.
Awesome.
Mid America in Louisville is my first one that I'm aware of. And then
when is that?
Somewhere in Matt's is somewhere in March.
Mid America Truck Show. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Then I have 3 all in the same week, the first week of April.
No way.
But, yes.
Check this out. It's March. Here, I'm going to share. You go to truckingshow.com. That's Matt's in March 2022. I just put the link there. And this is so interesting. Matt's will happen at the exact same time as Car Conference. I'll be in Vegas. You'll be in Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
How fascinating. So
there we go.
Yeah.
So we're probably good till March before we're going to need a break again.
And as Chris points out, see, it's always for the children. I'm telling you, if you read the headlines and you sift through the messaging, it's always about the children. So children demand truck parking, children demand better truck stops, children demand higher detention rates, children demand better, yeah. So there you go.
I don't know. I thought kids wanted out of detention, so they just want detention to go away.
They just want, children like detention or don't mind it. They just want better rates as they sit there at their desks. And what is the difference between school detention and trucking detention?
I don't know.
I don't think there is one. That's why they call it detention.
No.
Yeah, that's amazing. B Logistics says, I missed Brian's introduction. Did he work for the DOT?
No, I do not work for the DOT, but I am a member of the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, which is the group that trains and certifies motor carrier enforcement officers throughout North America, Canada, United States, and Mexico. I am also a member of the Illinois Truck Enforcement Association, which is the association for motor carrier officers in the state of Illinois that are not employed by the state. So all the municipal officers that do truck enforcement. So though I am not a former motor carrier inspector, I have access to the same reference materials, the same training classes. I've taken classes inside scale houses on how to inspect trucks, how to operate the scales. I can sit on the same classes that these officers do. I'm on the Cargo Securement Forum. I'm on the Vehicle Committee of CVSA. There's a couple others that escape me right now, but I am involved representing the industry side of the safety and enforcement. Word just escaped me. But I represent us, the industry, with CVSA.
Coalition.
Yeah, there we go.
Coalition. I just shared, if you've got any questions, because we're about to go off air, but if you want to contact Brian, email onair@yourdotguy.com, and Brian will try and answer your question. And by the way, if you email Brian, be careful. He is going to give you the full answer. Which I appreciate. So, and if you missed this video entirely, you can put it in the YouTube comments below. Catch the podcast. Let us know how we can help. And Brian, thank you so very much for taking the time today. I know you got a busy schedule.
Yes, I got to make Rochester, New York by 5 o'clock tonight, and I'm still down in central Pennsylvania, so I'll make it.
Yeah, you'll make it. Okay, good. All right, well, good. Well, thank you to you. We salute the audience. Thank you very much for joining the live chat. Brian, thanks as always, and we'll catch you next week at noon on Wednesday Central Time.
You're welcome, Jay. See you next week. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Take care, Brian. See ya. Bye-bye, everybody.